Hey friends, I'm Jonathan Smith, and this is Jump In with Jonathan, the podcast that makes you think, smile, and take action. Are you ready to jump in this show with me? Let's go. Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. Today we're talking about something that every single one of us faces at some point in our lives, and it is called the fear of failure. You know that sinking feeling you get before you try something new? Or the voice in your head that says, what if I mess up? Yeah, that's the fear of failure. It keeps people from chasing dreams, starting businesses, trying relationships, or even speaking up in a meeting. But here's the truth. The fear of failure shouldn't be your enemy. Fear should be your enemy. And if we don't learn to push through it, we end up living small instead of living fully. And it should be our goal to live out our life to our fullest potential. So today I want to break down why we fear failure, what it cost us, and how we can overcome it. So where does this fear come from? Well, there's several reasons that as I sit down to put this podcast together that I wrote down here on my paper. I said the first one would be the society's pressure from school to jobs. We get performance review. We've been trained to see failure as unacceptable. You shouldn't see failure as unacceptable. You should see failure as an opportunity to grow. Then we've got into the comparison culture, and we know that social media doesn't help. We see highlight reels of everyone else's success and assume we'll look ridiculous if we fall short. No, you won't. You will not look ridiculous if you fall short. You look ridiculous by not trying to succeed. You look terrible by just sitting on the sidelines and say, if I try this, I'm going to fail. So what if you fail? Get back up and try again. Then we get into our own heads with personal perfectionism. For some of us, it's internal. We set the bar so high that anything else less than perfect feels like failure. I'm that same way when I sit down to record a podcast. I'm that way when I sit down to, as some of you know, I pastor. I try not to talk. I try to make this more of a secular podcast, but when I sit down and write a sermon, when I sit down and talk to people, I try to be as professional as I can be, and I try to do things to perfection. And there's times that I fail at being perfect. We all do. We're human. Nothing's ever going to be 100% perfect. So when I look at the irony, the people we admire most, entrepreneurs, athletes, leaders, politicians, at some point in their life, they have failed more times than most of us has ever tried. And when they failed, they didn't let that stop them from achieving their dream. They used that as a stepping stone to walk toward their dream. Here's what fear will cost us. It'll paralyze us mentally. You never start that book, that business, that project. You talk about it, but never take action. When we think about that, why should I write a book? Why should I start a business? What project do I need to start that I won't because I procrastinate and say I'll get to it sometime and sometime never gets here? And the reason we do that is so we do not fail at it. Missed opportunities, you'll play it safe. And while you will avoid mistakes, and yes, you will avoid failure, you will also avoid growing opportunities. Don't take the easy road. The easy road will not lead you to the path of success. The easy road will keep you in the same stagnant condition that you are in now. It will keep you in the same place that you've always been. Then later on, you'll have regret. Years later, you'll look back and wonder what might have happened if I had tried. What might have happened if I'd just asked that question? What might have happened if I'd have started that business? What might have happened if I'd said this or if I'd have said that? I once heard one person say more dreams die in doubt than in failure. And that's true. Failure doesn't kill as many dreams as the fear of trying. So how do I overcome failure? How can I reframe failure? Step one is to reframe failure itself. Failure equals feedback. Every failure teaches you something you couldn't have learned otherwise. When I fail at something, I go back and I look over my notes and say, okay, I failed here, here, and here. So in order to be perfect, I need to work on this area, and this area. And I'll work on those areas. And if I fail again, I'll say, okay, so it wasn't these areas. And I find the solution to the problem. Failure equals proof that you tried. If you never fail, it means you never stretched yourself and tried. Failure is temporary. This is the greatest part about failure. Failure is temporary. It's not a life sentence. Most failures aren't final. Doesn't mean that, okay, I failed, so I don't get a second chance. No.
No, that's not the way failure works, my friend. Failure will come and failure will go. And when you succeed after you failed, it'll be a greater victory for you. And you can say, I just overcame my fear and I just overcame my failure. And look where I'm at today. When I first started this podcast, I said, I will never make it far in the podcast industry. I started a YouTube channel. I started Facebook. I started Instagram. I started all of these places. And today I look back at my download numbers. We're over 1,600 downloads. Between the two podcasts, I'm close to 300 uploads on podcasts. I'm over 800 videos on YouTube, over 3,000 followers on YouTube. And I look and I say, look, I didn't fail. I had a fear of failing. What if nobody ever listens to my podcast? What if nobody ever takes the time to download a podcast? What if they never take the time to subscribe? And each day as those numbers grow, I grow with them. Think about this. Thomas Edison had over 1,000 failed experiments before inventing the light bulb. Here's what he said. He said, I've never failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that it won't work. That's a good way to look at it. I didn't fail. I just found ways that won't work. So here's the practical steps to push through fear. Start small. Take little risks that stretch you, like speaking up in a meeting, posting that creative project, and build your failure muscle. When you go to the gym for the very first time, you will not just go and get on the biggest workout machine and say, okay, this is how I'm going to work out today. But you start small and you build your muscles little by little. That is the same way that you need to build your muscles today with overcoming failure. Redefine success. Instead of measuring by outcomes, celebrate the effort. Did you show up? Did you try? Did you train properly? Say, yes, I did all of those things. Then that's not a failure. That's a win. You tried. Visualize the worst case scenario. Usually it's not as bad as we imagine. If you fail, will the world end? Absolutely not. It isn't like you're building a missile. It's not like you're building something nuclear. It's not like you're gonna build something that's gonna make the difference in a war, in winning a war or not winning a war. But what your goal is in life is to make you and your family better. Surround yourself with support. Being around people who encourage risk taking and resilience makes a huge difference. Watch videos of people who's made it successful and listen to the risks that they took. Listen to podcasts where people have taken risk and learn from them. Talk to friends, talk to family who have taken risks and learn from them. That is how you become a better person. Practice self-compassion. Talk to yourself the way you would to a friend. You'd never call your friend a loser for failing. At least I hope you wouldn't. And if you wouldn't do that, then don't do it to yourself. Here's a personal story. Sometimes I like to be personal so that you can learn a little bit about me. When I first launched a handyman business in 2020, when COVID took place, I was terrified that it would be a flop. I got a phone call one day and they said, Jonathan, we're going to cut your hours. You're going to be part-time. You're no longer going to be full-time. And at my job that I was working at, and they said, we're going to have to cut your hours. And I said, okay, that's fine. And I was like, what am I going to do? And I said, you know what? I'm going to start a business. I'm going to go back doing to know what I know to do best. And that was paint sheetrock. And guess what? It didn't go as planned. I didn't have phone calls the first few days. I was a little worried. I was just getting paid to work part-time. I'd lost my benefit, but I learned just to be patient. And one day I got a phone call from this person and they said, we got something we want you to come look at. And when I came and looked at the project and I gave a bid on the project and I won the project, that project turned my business around 180 degrees. Looking back, by not getting those phone calls, that wasn't failures. By not getting those emails wanting me to do business, that wasn't failures. But I learned more than I ever could have in success just by being patient. I learned more in the business when customers said, hey, I don't like this, I don't like that, can you fix this, can you fix that? I don't look at that as failures. I do not look at that as screw ups on my end. I look at that as learning opportunities to make my business better. It's training. Where would I be without it today? So when I look at all of the things that I have talked about today, here's the bottom line. Failure isn't final. and fear isn't fact. Get a hold of that. Failure isn't final and fear isn't fact. Every great success story has a messy middle full of stumbles and setbacks. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is simple. Some people let failure stop them, while others let failure shape them. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to move forward despite fear. Hey, thanks for jumping in with me today. If fear of failure has held you back, maybe this is your sign to finally take that step and move forward. And if you enjoyed today's episode, share it with someone who might need a little courage right now. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram. Whatever social media platform that you're on, please don't forget to follow me there so that you'll never miss a new episode. Until next time, keep trying, keep learning, and remember, failure isn't the end, it's just the beginning. Until we jump in again, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to today's episode on Jump In with Jonathan, and keep in mind that life is better when you jump in. Have a blessed day.